I want to welcome everybody. I'm Paula Bartholomew, the Director of Online Events, and we're just delighted that you've tuned in for Hawthorn University's All About Alumni. We've had so many previous interviews with our Hawthorn graduates, and Victor Causetto started us off this year in January, so I hope you'll visit our website and view their presentations too. But let me stick with today for now, because we have our nutrition consultant graduate, Sapha Arias, with us, and she's going to share her post-grad professional experiences with her presentation, The Nourished Healer, Creating a Business with Heart to Empower Women's Relationship with Food. And we'll hear about Sapha's experience during her first year as an intuitive healer entrepreneur as she shares the lessons she's learned that help develop and transform her practice of helping women change their relationships with food, as well as her experiences at Hawthorn and how that helped her develop a customer avatar, a website, and collaborations with other like-minded practitioners. And then finally, Sapha will share her career goals as a health and wellness consultant and yoga teacher moving forward. And while I have the pleasure of interviewing Sapha, those of you who are listening live also have the opportunity to ask questions or to speak directly to her today. So simply post a question or a comment to the question panel, and I'll pose that for you. And I want to remind us all that we're recording this, and it will be posted on the entire interview to our website in just a few days. Finally, I get to say hello, Sapha, and welcome.
Hello, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm really excited to be here. Finally, we've come to this moment after all of our preparations for it. So it's my pleasure to introduce you and then have you share your post-grad experiences.
Oh, thank you so much.
You bet, Sapha. So Sapha Arias is a Houston-based yoga and meditation instructor, as well as a writer, nutrition consultant, and a love your body healer. She's been teaching yoga and meditation for over 10 years and has found a passion in helping women shift their perspective and redefine their relationships to self. Her mission is to help women who are tired of dieting to change their relationship with food and discover a new way to live healthfully and joyfully without the need to deprive themselves. I love that. What a mission you've got. So we're so pleased to have you join us, Sapha. I'm excited everybody's here to hear your story. So are you willing and ready to share it?
I am so excited, willing, and ready.
All right, then I'm going to have you get started. And I think, why don't we start with having you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got interested in nutrition?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Yeah, I've got kind of an interesting story. So I'll give you a little bit of a background on me. I grew up in Mexico City and had a pretty average childhood, except for the fact that I was a little bit on like the chunkier side as I was a little kid, right? In my experience growing up, I feel like all of us have these stories that we start developing in our minds as we grow up, whether we have been told, oh, you chew too loudly, or, maybe we had an experience with someone who said something slightly negative and we took it very much to heart or so. What will tend to happen is our psyches will take that and turn it into a story of validation for ourselves. So for me, what ended up happening was I had been told my whole life that I was chunky and that I needed to lose weight. And that turned into this tremendous monster that just kind of followed me around for a very long time. And what ended up happening was that burden stayed with me all the way through my college years. And even a little bit after that, I just kept feeling like my worth was solely wrapped around how much I weighed or how much weight I could lose at any given point. And I developed a type of eating disorder. I was definitely on the spectrum. So that's kind of what started me on this path to begin with. I was at this very dark point in my life where everything that I thought mattered was about how low that number on the scale could go, right?
Yeah.
And at this point, I accidentally, and I do mean accidentally, had sort of found this yoga studio by my house. And I was like, I just went in there because they were selling clothes. Literally, I was not going in there to do yoga or anything. But I found the classes and I was thinking to myself, you know what? Madonna does yoga. She looks really good. She's very skinny. Maybe I should do this. And I embarked on that journey. And what ended up happening was it took me by surprise. Stepping onto my mat and finding awareness deep within my practice started to wake me up to the fact that I could trust my body, I could trust myself, and that I deserved better and that I was worth so much more. It brought me into a space of healing, tremendous healing, to the point where I woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? I deserve happiness and joy and love, and I am a being of a tremendous power. So that kind of brought me to the space of self-love and self-healing. And it started pulling me out of the typical realm of the diet world, the yo-yo dieting, the how much are you going to like spend on those like diet zero jeans, and if you can't fit into them, then what's wrong with you, and all of this other stuff. And it put me in a place where I wanted to start sharing that same sort of aspects with the people around me. So that's my last sort of point to you here is, it was an interesting roundabout way of coming about to the side of nutrition, because I had sort of the opposite relationship to food, right? I had become enemies with all kinds of food at this point in my life. And through meditation and awareness and self-acceptance and self-love, I ended up discovering that there is such worth and such value and such power in the way in which we nourish ourselves on so many different levels. And it made me very keen to share that healing with other women, because I realized pretty much every person or every woman around me was going through something similar. You know, it didn't have to be at the same extreme, but I felt this like heartbreaking pain out of the people that surrounded me, who just continuously would, you know, either pinch fat here and there, or say, oh, I'm going on a new diet, or complain about how much they had eaten the night before. So all of that started to weigh on my soul. And I was like, you know what? I feel like it is time to maybe step into the healer role and see if we can't help other people find the same type of peace that I did.
What a beautiful share, and culmination into the journey of self-love, and sharing that as the role of the healer. Beautiful, Sasha. So
yeah, it's an interesting transformation. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. An interesting transformation for sure. You know, to come from such almost self-loathing to self-love. It's a powerful transformation.
Absolutely.
And so that takes you into the journey of starting to be a holistic consultant, right?
Yeah, so the first step out of that was I decided I was going to get my yoga teacher certification, because, like I said, I had come about it, into it in a roundabout way, but found so much value in it, and I decided I wanted to share that with other women around me. So the first stage was I went through yoga teacher certification, developed this tremendous passion for teaching yoga and trying to help women heal their relationship to self through that practice, and saw a lot of value in it. And then naturally, without me really doing much of anything, people just would randomly come up to me after class and be like, hey, what do you eat? And I was like, huh? I thought it was such an interesting question coming out of my students. They would come up to me after class and be like, I would love to know what it is that you eat, how you take care of yourself. And I didn't feel qualified to say, oh, you should go on a vegan diet, or you should do a cleanse. It didn't feel right in my heart of hearts to just kind of sit there and do that. So as more and more people came about and started asking me these questions, I was like, you know what? I wonder if I could find a way to further my education and maybe just become either a nutritionist or a nutrition consultant, or something that has to do with what these women are asking of me, but that doesn't land me in the land of guesswork, right? Or it didn't want to be just one more person saying, oh, you need to eat kale. So that's kind of why and how I came about into the search of nutrition consultation. And that's kind of how I came about Hawthorn. So I'm on my computer one day, And I'm
I
just
wondered
kind of
how you
typing.
found us. And I wondered how you found us and why you chose to study at Hawthorn.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm on my computer typing one day, and I'm like, okay, holistic nutrition school, because I was coming from a place of I had already been exposed to dietitians in my life, and with the patterns that I had developed, it ended up just becoming more aggravated. After leaving usually a consultation with them, I would have been told, well, you just need to not eat carbs, or you need to stay away from fat. And it was just always very cold to me. And it seemed not to make sense. Like I just would leave all of these dietitian consultations feeling worse. Like I would feel lost and confused and just not know what to do. And since I have already spent some time within the yoga community, and have been exposed to, say, Ayurveda, for example, right?
Mhm.
I had an idea that holistic healing and holistic wellness was completely different. So, like I said, I sat down on my computer and typed up holistic healing, holistic nutrition. I did a lot of research. I came across a bunch of different schools. Some of them, and I needed something also that was going to be online because I didn't have a lot of time. I got a full-time job. Plus, I'm teaching yoga, so I needed something that was going to be accessible to me. But some of the stuff that was out there wasn't really clicking with me. And one day, I just came across the Hawthorn website, and I looked at the curriculum. And I remember thinking, wow, okay, this feels right. This makes sense. They're looking at anatomy. They're looking at biochemical individuality. Like I just remember feeling very excited about it. And I remember thinking they have a holistic approach. They look at how you can bring together body, mind, and spirit almost, right? Same as the yoga practice. And they have time accessibility. They're going to be within my budget. And I'm going to be able to be talking to my teachers on a one-on-one basis, which, by the way, was one of my favorite things to do, because I had interacted with my same teacher from day one. And any question that I had for her, it didn't matter how silly it seemed at the moment or how random the oh, I'm stuck kind of sensation was, she was there for me. So all of these were super, super important things when I was looking at why Hawthorn and how I got to Hawthorn and how that decision was made.
Wow, that sort of just really fell in place with you and leads you into, it begs for the question for you to please share some more about your Hawthorn experience and what happened once you got in the door and working one-on-one and things like that.
Absolutely. So I found it just a beautifully cohesive, I want to say education, but it was also a practice. Or maybe this is just the way that my brain works in the yoga realm, where I look at everything in a very unique way. But it wasn't the usual go to school, sit at your desk, memorize something, spit it back into the test, and then forget about it, right? I felt very called to use my brain, right? I felt very called to pay attention and get to know more about not just the body, but the way that we are all each individually created. Oh, that was one of the biggest things for me, Paula. I thought that was so beautiful. When the idea of biochemical individuality was introduced into my world, I feel that was life-changing, because for so long I had just been sitting there, even within my yoga practice, and saying, you guys, we can't be teaching the same poses to everyone the same way, because everybody's built differently. And it was the same for me in terms of the food. I sat there and I looked at my materials and I thought, you know what? Everything here is revolving around the fact that each person is unique. Everyone is going to have their own ways of dealing with things, and we need to be able to honor that in a very particular way. The other thing that I loved about Hawthorn is that I wasn't just given paperwork and told, here, everyone in the world needs to be low fat, or everyone who suffers from this disease needs to be eating this. And it was more about use your brain, use critical thinking. How are you going to be looking at the science behind what you're reading? How are you going to know whether a study is biased or not? How are you going to make a decision as to what is going to potentially help a person move away from dis-ease, and why? Like, what is the process behind it? Or are you just going to be putting everyone on an elimination diet or a candida diet, despite whatever it is that's going on with their own unique makeup? So that's kind of what I was looking at. I was grateful to be exposed to something beyond, and I put it in the slide here on purpose. I was like, something beyond just quote unquote the right way, but like, look at the global picture. We go back to that holistic word, right? We go back to the holistic thinking. And that made a tremendous difference for me. It was beyond, like I said, don't just tell people to eat kale and read Goop magazines. Make sure that you are going in depth about what it is that you're doing and why. Like, investigate, ask questions. If it doesn't sit right with you, then why? What goes beyond that? How can you further serve the people around you? And then that was all in terms of the nutritional side of it. The other thing that was great for me about my experience with Hawthorn was that there was a lot within the concept of running a business, which, by the way, I just like have never run my own business. So this was like total, like, you breaking ground for me. So there was a lot in terms of how to look at how to niche yourself and how to look at what the legal side is going to look like and what it means to have clients really talk about you and share that with other people and get them excited about you. All of the things that I guess I was taking for granted a little bit, because I had had people ask me before, hey, what do you eat, right? So in my head at first, I will admit that it was kind of like, oh, I'm going to go in, I'm going to get my nutrition certification, and people are just going to show up and ask me, and I'm going to have clients. And then you forget that there's this whole other side of it, like, how do you protect yourself legally? What does it mean to, like, develop either an LLC or not? How do you look at an avatar? So there's, like, all of that aspect of it that I was completely missing in my head, which, thank goodness, Hawthorn was able to bring to the table for me so that I could explore and use that to help me as I started to finally build my business toward the end of last year.
Mm-hmm. I love this. Just the journey alone of, from getting into the door to the business focus of it is really helpful to hear. So what I hear is your personal journey led you to study at Hawthorn, and that led you to your professional work. So how did your education at Hawthorn lead you to your current practice and business? And can you talk a little bit about your niche and your target audience?
Absolutely. So that was one of the major things that I learned when I was at Hawthorn and when I got to the business section of my educational path. There was a lot of talk about niching. And I was like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? Can't I just treat everybody? Can't I just see everyone one-on-one and just tell them, what to eat or not to eat? And so it was like a light bulb went off in my head, because I had this moment through the education of like, no, hold on a second. If you try to serve everybody, you will end up serving nobody. And so I decided I was going to like have a sort of like a come to Jesus moment, right? I was like, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I had to go back again to the same thing. I went back to my story. I went back to my childhood. I went back to like investigating internally, what is it exactly I want? Why am I eating this path? And it's down to that same goal that I'd had all those years ago when I first started my yoga practice and things started to change internally, that I was feeling like, wow, there is so much pain and so much heartache and so much disconnect specifically. Not that it doesn't happen with men, but for me, the call was geared toward, let's call it like the sacred feminine, is how I see it, who have been disempowered and who have been told our whole lives that everything that makes us matter is external. And it starts at that weight. It starts at that number on the scale or at those genes. And so I was like, no, I want to help fight this. I want to help heal. women's relationships to food. And so that's where that niche came about, right? I'm here to help women change their relationship to food so that they can have a thriving life. And thriving, I do mean that. I don't want people to feel deprived. I don't want them to feel like they have to go, days and weeks and months without eating chocolate. I want women to know that they can trust their bodies, that they can trust their intuition, and that they can grow and nourish themselves in a way that isn't going to leave them feeling depleted, deprived, depressed, and alone. And so that's where that came from. Going a little bit beyond that too, what I find has been important to me has been to kind of let my walls down a little bit and allow myself to be very vulnerable and let people know, hey, you're not alone on this journey. I am coming from a place of disconnect as well. And this is how I can understand these eating patterns have been set before you. This is probably how you're learning to mistrust yourself and why. And this is how we can help you come into awareness. So it's a little bit of a journey along those lines. That vulnerability has allowed me to say, hey, take a moment, listen to your body, and learn to find its cues, become very intuitive about it, and realize that you can rely within yourself and not feel like you yourself are attacking yourself, if that makes any sense. So it was sort of like a slow progression that kind of percolated and created not just my niche, but then also ultimately like my client avatar, right? So meaning, a woman who is has gone from diet A to diet B to like everything else and tried everything in the world to like change herself and still feels at the end of the day hollow, and she hasn't reached her goals and she feels miserable and she doesn't know what else to do. Because I was that person. And so my avatar became a version of my old self. And so I find that it's about pumping the brakes a little bit and helping women take a deep breath, slow down, let's investigate, let's question, let's go deep, let's have awareness, let's have intuition, let's be gentle and heal and nourish in that way.
Oh my goodness, this is so powerful. I want to hear more. I want to hear more about the services that you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started little, and I've actually got I'll show you a picture in a second, but I will outline them for you here. So it started with just my yoga classes, of course, and then I started offering also one-on-one consultations, which I have to be honest with you, those gave me a little bit of anxiety at first, because I was like, oh no, people are gonna like see me, and I don't know if I can handle it. As an introvert, it was a little bit like a anxiety ridden, but I ended up, that's probably one of my favorite things to do, is to sit down and like actually have a heart to heart with people. Man, it fulfills me in a way that I was not expecting, and it makes me so happy. Which is, I appreciate all the technology that we have, and I love how we can grow our businesses through webinars and things like those, and I can go into that in a little bit. But my sense of it is that it's very important for people to see you and to hear you and to sort of resonate with your true being, right? I find that there's something very powerful about the resonance of your voice and the way that you can look into someone's eyes and feel very reassured. So one-on-one consultations, like face-to-face, even if it's FaceTime, I feel make a tremendous difference. I've also offered a couple of online webinars and like Instagram challenges along the way. And I like to collaborate for a lot of it too, which we can also get a little bit further into collaborations in a little bit. I find that people get very excited to like share in your dream and in your passion. So it becomes sort of like really key. Still not super technology savvy. So the Instagram challenges that I've done so far maybe are like in the baby steps. But they've been fun, and people seem to like it because they get to document and share with the world and use hashtags, and that seems to get the ball rolling in terms of excitement. And then I've done a couple of group presentations at like a couple of like local churches, nothing major yet, but I'm still working on developing that side of it. And then I'm offering still wellness retreats so that I can combine what I do as a yoga practitioner, as well as what I do as a nutrition consultant, and kind of put it all together and help people heal even outside of their comfort zone. So those make me super excited. So those are kind of the ways in which I'm offering some services.
Beautiful. You know, the wellness retreats can be so transformative. You take people out of their daily routine and plunk into, you know, a more holistic approach and all the offerings, and it's just a beautiful time for transformation.
It is wonderful.
Well, all this that you're doing, how are you marketing yourself, and what is your online presence? And if, say you're not very savvy, but you've developed a lot here. So how have you?
Okay, so it's been a trial and error kind of thing, and I will actually take advantage and show you like this is a screenshot directly from my website, right? So you go onto my website and you'll see the services that we have offered. I'm trying to, one of the things that I learned within Hawthorn, but also talking to other friends of mine who have their own businesses, is that you want to have like a particular look that's going to go with your brand, right? So I tend more toward the girly, softer side of things. So you've got this beautiful like pink hues and like pastels. If you drop by my website, you'll see there's like a lot of soft yellows, a lot of soft pinks and blues. So I try to keep that sort of in line. That's kind of stage one. So what I have done for marketing in terms of client outreach and stuff is I've gotten the website developed, and that actually I ended up not fully doing myself, but the guys that helped me to get my pictures done, and that was the other side of my marketing that I've gotten done, is do very specific, what I call them are, what was the word that I usually use for them? Like lifestyle brand pictures. It sounds really weird and verbose, but that's kind of what they are. So like, you'll see a couple of those pictures here in my own slides where like I'm smiling and I'm walking down the path, or like I'm sitting at my desk. It sounds cheesy, but it is a way of showing the kind of person, your kind of personality to the people who are like landing on your website, so that they can go beyond just like, if you just landed on my website and you saw that, you'd be like, pass, boring. So what I've done is I got those guys to like come in and help me design this really beautiful website using Wix, which was super simple. And now I run it. Like I'll go in there and I'll add things and I'll move things around. And so I love that. And right. I ended up moving my client-based email list from when I was teaching yoga over to my business. But then what I've also done is I've added an opt-in on the very front end of my website. So if you go onto my website, at the very top, it'll say, hey, if you want to like learn 5 ways in which you can, or in which you are sabotaging your health, put your email here and you will get my free like little e-booklet, right? And so that's what does that client outreach. People will go in there, put their email, and then they'll subscribe to my newsletter, and they'll be getting that every month or every other month, or whenever it is that I'm sending it. At the moment, I'm sending one every month, so they'll get that monthly. And then it's all about knowing how to talk to people when you don't know what it is that you're doing. So like I said, I got the guys that did my pictures to come in and help me, and ask them to help me figure out how to make my website look clean and crisp and attract as many people as possible. I've done the same thing in terms of like using specific words. So the internet is great, but a lot of things get lost along the way. So I've gotten friends of mine who've run businesses before to come in and say, hey, if you use these words, you're going to come up more in the searches, versus like if you just kind of use this type of language, that's not going to get anybody's attention. So collaboration and asking for help are important, super important. And that actually, back to the collaboration, I've reached out to, for example, a friend of mine who is a fitness instructor, and I told her, hey, let's put something together for the end of the year or for Christmas. that will get people excited about moving their bodies in a positive way, and also nourishing themselves without putting them back in diet land type mind mentality. So we did that, and I'll show you a picture of what we did here with that in a second. It looks super neat. And we got just a bunch of people kind of excited about it on Instagram and on our Facebook groups. So that's super exciting. So Facebook groups, Instagram, all of that's important, but I will tell you what's made the biggest difference for me has been word of mouth, and also my free offering. So if people trust you, it makes a world of difference. I mean, you can have the world's best looking website, but if people do not feel like they have a connection to you or like they can trust you, they're just going to dismiss you. They're going to move on to the next person, because why would they invest any time on you? They don't know you. So, but if they hear from someone who like has worked with you and has said, hey, I worked with Sapha, she's really helped me to like get in touch with myself, and now that I'm more self-aware, I don't binge eat anymore, and I don't feel like the necessity to like self-soothe with foods or whatever it is, then there'll be that interest of, wow, this has made a difference for my friend or my family member. That's something that I want to go look into. So there's always like little incentives for my clients. Like I'll tell them, hey, if you talk to your friends and your family and any of them book an intake consultation with me, you get like a 20% discount with me for the next consultation. And so that gets them excited. And then free offerings in terms of like, I'll be like, oh, we're going to do like a free 3-day webinar or like a free 1-day webinar where you come in and I'll sit down and I'll talk about intuitive eating and what it is. And that starts getting people really interested in getting to know you as a person. And it takes it off of like the cyber realm. Oh, so here you have one of those like pictures that I was telling you about, the lifestyle, like whatever, like as if I was going to go in and take a picnic and read a book. But it's totally, which is silly, but it's actually my personality, because I like to spend a lot of time outdoors and I do read a lot. So it's like you put your heart into it and then the soul sort of translates out of the picture and it kind of gets people's attention.
It's very self-informative. It's very good.
Exactly. That way, you know, they get to catch a bit of your spirit along the way with it. And then another thing that I'm working on is I like to write a lot. As you can tell, I'm very verbose, but like very. So a lot of what I do will go into like blogs, and Insta stories are something that I'm getting used to lately, but they're really good. So because like I said, people want to get to know you in order to know if they're going to buy from you, anything from you. It doesn't matter what it is. So if you go in there and you let yourself be who you are, that's going to attract the kind of person that you want toward your business. And so that's kind of what those Insta stories are about. I'll go in there and I'll sit down and I'll have a conversation with people, like, or ask questions. I'll sit there and be like, okay, today I want to talk about why I don't mistrust sugar. I don't know, something like that. And that'll kind of get the ball rolling, and I can ask people questions and interact in a different way. So it brings attention. To me, that's some of the best marketing you can afford. Like anything, you know, beyond, let's say, oh, you're going to put an ad on the newspaper, or, oh, you're going to buy an ad on Instagram. I mean, those things could potentially help, but I go back to the same thing. If people don't trust you and they don't know you, it's just not going to work. And then at the end of the day, I think we put a lot of weight on those types of marketing techniques. Let's say, oh, I'm going to spend $1,000 on Facebook ads, but how much of that are you really going to get back into your client base? Because, again, they don't know you. We don't like to see ads on Facebook anyway. So we see your ad, it's going to be like, oh, one more ad, just move it out of the way. So there's something to be said about remembering that, yes, we can use all of these tools, but we have to be smart about it. It's probably going to be a little bit more attractive for someone to sit there and listen to you do like a live stream about something that matters to them, you know, like say binge eating, versus look at a picture on a Facebook ad and think, oh, meh, whatever. So these are just like little screenshots of what my website looks like if you're looking at it on your phone, just so you get an idea of what my idea of like marketing my brand looks like. Like I said, everything is very clean and clear and pastel colors everywhere. You've got me like goofing up on top of the counter, drinking wine, because that's the other thing is I really wanted to convey to people Like I said, I worry about your relationship to food and I don't want you to feel deprived. Here, have some wine. So
Sit down, have a glass of wine, we'll talk about it.
Exactly. So all of those messages will translate to someone and it'll make them feel like, oh, that makes me feel better about myself. These are some screenshots of what an Instagram story looks like. So right here on the far left, you've got one where like you can go in there and ask a question. Also, if you see the one on the left, the way that that is framed, the way that the actual sentence looks like, that's also part of my marketing, because my brand, if you look at my Instagram, all of it looks like that. It's framed exactly the same and it's got the same color pattern and everything. So you'll go in and you get the chance to go in and ask a question. Or you can share. The one in the middle is what I was telling you about, that I did that collaboration with my friends, who's like amazing. We did a 21-day program. We had a free like intro so that people can go in and check out what it was going to be like. And then we went for 21 days on challenges. Like she would do the fitness side of it, and I did like the meditation, yoga / nutrition side of it. And it was super fun. We had a great time. We ended up including also a Facebook group page, which was like a great way to interact with everyone who signed up for the program. And then you've got on the other side here, we did like another special that I was offering for like the holiday theme. Book like a one-on-one with me and, you know, you'll get a special holiday discount or whatever. So these are all marketing techniques that I use.
You're very approachable. This marketing techniques you've done is all about you and being vulnerable and putting yourself out there, but you've made yourself very approachable.
Yeah, that's been my heart goal.
Well, with all this in mind, can you share some more about what your fees are for your services and talk a little bit about how you determined and developed them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got, this is what I'm calling it. We're talking business, so it's talk business to me. So basically, what I've done is I've thought about my avatar. Again, I always go back to my avatar and I'm thinking, okay, so what is this person looking like? My avatar's name is Kayla. So what is Kayla looking for? So Kayla is looking for something transformative. She's looking to let go of her diet, like yo-yo dieting lifestyle. She's looking for permanent change. She's looking to have a healthy lifestyle, and she's looking to see results that are going to stick around. That brings me to a very particular niche in terms of demographics, right? So I started looking at, okay, how much is she going to be willing to spend on a one-on-one consultation? How much is it going to be out of her budget and all of that stuff? And it's, in my case, my avatar is just like either a single girl or something along those lines. The reason I say that for my avatar is, this is what I find most often will happen, is if a woman in her 60s has been married for 30 years and she goes in to see a holistic healer, her husband will be like, holistic healers are lying to you. So that usually will put a stopper. That's a barrier, right? That's something that I was thinking about when I was building my program. And I was like, okay, how do we fix that? So we look at our niche, we niche it further. And we start marketing to a particular age range. We start marketing to a particular demographic, and we go from there. I charge about $150 per intake consultation, and then about $75 per consultation after that. I do offer special packages. So I'm developing a 21-day program, and I say developing because, like I said, I just rolled out the business very late last year, and I've kind of like slowly started to put the building blocks into place. And as I learn and as I ask for help, I keep finding new ways in which to change the situation. So of course, if I'm going to offer a one-on-one consultation, that's going to be a different pricing that it would be for the 21-day program, right? So for the 21-day program, it'll be anywhere from $200 up to $400, depending on what's going to be included in terms of, is there going to be daily chats with me? Is there going to be a grocery store like trip that we're going to take together? Are we talking including yoga and meditation? Are we talking using other elements in terms of like maybe a social group? All of those things are going to make the price go a little bit higher, but it's all going to depend on what what it is that you're trying to sell, right? So that's kind of what you're looking for. And then also, I'll tell you what gave me a lot of anxiety was setting my price point.
Right.
I'm, like I said, very introverted, and I have a tendency to just kind of like sometimes want to put myself in a little shell and disappear a little bit. So one thing that I struggled with a lot at first was that I kept saying, oh my gosh, no, but I don't want to make people feel like they have to pay me this much money. What if it's too much? And then I was like, you know what? Hold on a second. How much am I actually worth, right? And why am I looking at myself as if I wasn't worth enough? So it's putting yourself out of the idea of lack mentality and out of the I'm not good enough, or there's someone better out there, or oh, but that person is like way more qualified, or any of those kinds of thoughts that are going to go in lack mentality. Put them like away and make them disappear, and come from a place of prosperity and from worth, self-worth. If you know that you are worth X amount of money, then charge that. And that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's kind of where that stage has taken me in terms of how I price everything and what I offer to my clients. Now, do I have like special tariffs if I feel like it's needed? Yes, of course. But I know that the time that we spend together is also, time out of my own life and energy that I'm putting into your program and developing everything. So I'm going to charge what's going to be fair.
Right. It makes a lot of sense, but again, what I hear so much coming through this whole share of yours is be vulnerable, be real, be authentic, be in an integrity, and people will come to you for that. People can relate to somebody who's not just putting, information or prices or things up there, but, you are really putting yourself on the line and attracting a niche of very vulnerable women as well that can relate to you. So it seems like a win-win in terms of your mission and the need that's out there.
Yeah, I agree. That's entirely right.
Well, this leads me to wonder a little bit about how do you distinguish yourself from others? How do you stand out in a crowd? What makes your business Nourishing Paths approach unique?
Yeah. So that was something that also scared me a little bit at first, because I kept looking at the market and thinking, well, shoot, if I want to make money, I should say, if you want to lose 10 pounds, go on my 21-day cleanse. And if you want to fit into your jeans for the holidays or for the summer, if you want to have a summer body, then you need to do my fitness program. So I had a little bit of anxiety about it at first. And then I had to, like you said, I had to bring myself back into a space of vulnerability and integrity within myself and say, no, we are healing. This is what we're going to do. So I'm behind on my slides, by the way, and I'll talk to you about this in a second. So just remind me to go back. I apologize. But so what I decided was, let's bring the truth of like my heart and make that available to people. So that was the first stage. It's about what sets me apart is I will not demand of you that you shrink yourself. I will, however, ask that you be present with yourself and be willing to heal in a different way, and be willing to learn to retrust yourself and to enjoy life in a different manner. So that's what sets me apart. I'm not going to tell you, no, you're not going to eat cereal ever again for the rest of your life. I'm not going to tell you, no, you can't have cake. I'm actually going to say the opposite. And that's actually really funny, Paula, because what people will do is they'll kind of freak on you a little bit. They're like, wait, what do you mean I can have all foods? You're crazy. I can't have cake. I'll eat all the cake. I'll have like 300 pounds on top of me like after this. And it makes me smile because I know exactly where it's coming from, and I can embrace it and I can heal it. So it's about letting people know that there's a process in which they can start to shift the way in which they see the world and themselves. It's about telling them that being 100% present and aware and vulnerable makes a tremendous difference in how we listen to our intuition and what we can do with our bodies and how we can truly, truly heal from the inside out. And that is a softer, much more less abrasive approach to nutrition, at least in the way that at least I was exposed to it. Because like I said, whenever I went to a dietitian, it was always don't eat carbs or like don't eat fat. And it just felt so like harsh and aggressive in my spirit. And it caused so much disengagement. I don't ever want to be that for anybody. It's about a slow simmer. We're going to simmer things together and let it very slowly, cohesively come into this like beautiful, why not? We'll call it a broth. A little broth of healing and self-soothing. And that's what I think sets me apart from the rest. It is definitely swimming against the current. It is definitely setting some old thoughts on fire or putting them upside down, but that is what makes me and, well, my business so unique.
Mm-hmm. It is unique, but you're reaching out to people again, you know, from allowing yourself to be vulnerable. That's very attractive. Why is it attractive? Because it's honest, and it's unusual to be that honest. Yeah. And we hide. You know, you started this with how much we hide, and the impact that it has on us, particularly as women. So,
and absolutely, it makes a huge, huge difference. And then, would you be okay, Paula, if I went back for a second and I showed you just like the slides that I skipped out on?
No, please. I was going to just ask you that because I didn't mean to rush you.
No, it wasn't you. It was me that like I just got excited and I was like, "Ooh, let's move on."
Very good.
So, just going back a little bit in terms of the offerings, and actually, I will tell you what, this actually ties in kind of nicely, because one of the things that I do find slightly also different from what I've seen, at least up until now, is that I go back to the same thing. I like to collaborate with people. I got together with like the yoga studio where I teach at the beginning of the year for February, and we said, hey, February is kind of like the month of like love, but it's always around like romantic love, and it tends to be kind of isolating for people, and it's always also around like food, and it creates a lot of anxiety. What if we did something together? So we got together with, again, my friend who's a fitness instructor, and we put together like a 12-day challenge on Instagram where people would go in and they would find different ways of expressing self-love, right? And it was all about like, hey, take yourself out on a date. Or I posted this, one of the days that we had, the challenge was to like romance yourself, which is one of the techniques that I use that also kind of takes people for like a loop. They're like, wait, what? What do you mean romance myself? What are you talking about? That can't be romantic with me. And it was so cute to see some of the pictures that came through. We even had a girl who like had pictures of like wine and a bubble bath and like lingerie, and she was like, oh my God, this was the best idea ever. So those things are how I distinguish myself. I kind of like to make people slightly uncomfortable so that they can grow.
You're liberating their spirit, Sasha.
I am.
Right?
I am. I totally am. I feel like we grow from discomfort, and maybe at first it's like, oh my gosh, Sapha is asking me to be like, what? This is too much. But then later they'll get back and be like, oh, you know what? That was totally like the kick in the butt that I needed, and it ended up letting me grow. So that's part of, and that's what makes it so cool. So for example, I've got these workshops and retreats that I offer, and this is the one I was going to share with you. Because we have this one in July, actually, July 1st through the 6th, and I'm so stoked about it. So what I'll do is I'll take a compilation of everything I do. I will teach yoga, I will talk about nourishment in all kinds of different ways, and I will, yes, make people slightly uncomfortable so that they can grow from a place of love, and the healing that, the transformation and the healing that happen on these trips. I can't even tell you. I got an email from someone today who said, listen, I just signed up for your trip again. I went with you like 2 years ago, and I have not stopped like the inner growth and the self-healing that happens from that trip. She's like, I can't wait to see what you have for us next, because I'll do weird things. Like I'll have them do, I call them like interactive or collective exercises with one another, and then I'll have them do like a couple of really interesting journaling things. And I won't say too much, just in case like someone is listening and they're like, "Ooh, maybe I should sign up. I don't want to ruin it for you." But it's again, I go back to the same thing. I like to put people in a place where they can shift perspective, and perspective shifting is always a little loopy. It's a little like going down the rabbit hole.
Sure. But you've got my attention, Sapha, so.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so those are the things that we work on, and these are just examples of what I've done in terms of like offering workshops. The Intuitively Nourished for the new year was something that I put together a little bit last minute. I will admit to that, because this year kind of snuck up on me. But we did free webinars, and we did a bunch of stuff that we kind of signed up for, and then you've got the Mindful, Loved, and Strengthened that I did with my best friend. So those are the things that I offer, and how they like sort of distinguish me from other typical, maybe slightly more rigid points of view.
All right. Thank you so much for adding that too. And let's kind of close with what you've learned from starting this business.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I feel like I'm still learning. I will say one of the
main,
hopefully. Every day, for sure. I would say one of the main things for me has been to take it easy, to be kind to myself, because as much as I've learned to be very self-loving, I am still very self-harsh. So sometimes I expect myself to be like, quote unquote, further along the path. But the truth is, it's about taking it one day at a time, one step at a time, realizing that every little thing that we do, no matter how small it might seem, is a gem, and it is taking us in the proper direction for where we need to be, and that we have to kind of pace ourselves and remember that a lot of us are new at this, right? So the learning process has been, remember, you are learning, and you're going to continue to learn, and you're going to continue to grow. So adapt, shift, change, transmute. If something isn't working, something different. Something new is calling to you, create it. Like I've got this idea of creating a podcast lately that I've shared with you before. So that's the next sort of iteration of what I'm going to be working with. And now it's like, well, that's going to look different, and what do I need to learn for that? And so all of that, I feel like the most important lesson for me has been, don't become super attached to either an outcome or a idea of what you think things are going to look like, because everything will probably change.
Yes. So true. So thank you. And so in terms of future endeavors, you just spoke to your podcast, and you're going to continue with your 21 and 12-day programs. What's up for you coming forward?
I am. So I'm shifting it a little bit. I am creating something that's going to be, so the 21-day program is going to stay in place, but it's going to be more sort of like a recurring type thing, where people can actually sign up online and do it virtually, because it's I've heard a lot that just makes it a little bit easier for people. So I'm working on revamping that, because my original thought was totally different on it. The 12-day program, I haven't decided if I'm just going to axe altogether or if I'm going to keep. So that's kind of on the chopping block. The podcast, I'm looking forward to. I just kind of, I'm learning how to use my computer. And then I've got more retreats coming up, and I've got more collaborations coming up with a couple of my friends and things like those. And my goal would be to also be able to do a lot more free presentations at local churches, or even, honestly, one of the things that I would love to do most is work with either women's centers or spaces where they work with people who had issues with food, so that we can sit down and kind of create something really neat for them. It's something that I'm looking into. It's just a lot of research, which is great and fun, and a little scary, which is like what I like to move through. I like to see fear as something that I can just move through, and then hopefully at the end of that space, it's just me that's left behind.
It's true, really. Fear gets in the way of our own best selves so much. But being willing, it takes a certain, vulnerability and willingness, and a spot of encouragement from you to lead someone forward into stepping off that seemingly cliff's edge into the unknown of self, right?
A thought of encouragement would be go gently, be kind, and don't try to force or resist anything, because I think we become very accustomed to labeling or trying to make things be what we want them to be, when sometimes even the slightest shift in the opposite direction will end up serving us better. So don't force, don't resist, and just allow yourself to remain in presence with what's actually coming to you.
Well, I just have to breathe a little bit and take that in. So I want to invite anybody, if you have any questions or comments, this is a good time to enter them into the question panel for us. And do you have any final thoughts, Sapha? And how can people stay connected with you?
I don't have any final thoughts, but oh, look at this! My computer finally woke up.
I guess there are some thoughts.
I was trying to make it work, and then it just didn't, so I just didn't say anything. But yeah, here's where you can find me. So if you use Instagram, I'm at nourishing_paths. Facebook, basically Nourishing Paths LLC. Website is nourishingpaths.com, and my email is info@nourishingpaths.com. So if you ever have a question about anything, whether it's business related or intuitive eating or intuitive healing, which is basically the whole spectrum of what I do, then feel free to email me. If you want to know more about the yoga retreats or anything like that, you're welcome to just reach out to me on any of those forums. But yeah, I am always available and open.
That's the goal, right? Well, I'm so impressed. I was impressed with you as a student. I followed you certainly as you went through your studies, and to see how you are emerging as a professional and what you've accomplished in your first year is also very impressive. I love the direction that you're going, the approach that you have. I wish you tremendous success, and I know that you're going to have it because of who and how you are, and the philosophy and the mission that you have. And you have a wide open target audience to avail yourself of your services, Sapha. So
thanks, Paula. That means so much to me.
Absolutely. Well, it's really been a pleasure. I do hope you'll visit us again at Hawthorn and continue to share the good works that you're doing, because there's going to be more and more. And so, I think maybe we'll have you back in about a year and see what your updates are, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everybody. There'll be a brief survey at the end of this. If you're willing to take it, it'll help us to have your feedback and feedback for Sapha. And other than that, please help spread the word for our next All About Alumni, because we'll meet back here again on Wednesday, June 5th at noon Pacific time. And we'll be live with a special interview with Libby Bar-Kachpa. She's a graduate from our MSHN program, and she's going to be sharing a unique perspective as an elder working and volunteering in this field. I'm really looking forward to that. And until then, thank you again, Sapha, and I wish you all the best of health and encourage you to take good care and love yourself.
Thank you, Paula.
You deserve it.
Thank you.